Mr. Commissioner, honored inductees, Hall of Famers, ladies and gentlemen, to say that I would rather be someplace else other than here, I'd have to hedge a little bit on it because I'd possibly like to be in Houston, Texas with the San Francisco Giants. They played yesterday, they played a doubleheader. They won the first game, and there's rumors that they lost the second game. Wait a minute now, I can take credit. The first game, they didn't realize I was gone. And I'm sure the second game they realized I was gone and they didn't know what to do. But the way Commissioner Chandler got the rolling up here, I was beginning to wonder if I was going to miss tomorrow night's game in Atlanta. I just want to say to Travis Jackson, I hope you read where Luke Appling hit a home run in the Old Timers game in Washington the other day. I just want to let you know that I'm going to have a tryout right after the ceremonies, and we're going to have the same pitcher that pitched to Appling pitch to you, Warren Spahn. To Hank, I'd just like to say I've been chasing him for a long time. Always seemed like I was a step behind or a year behind. I broke in Columbia, South Carolina in 1954, down there after I opened up a half a season at Ogden, Utah. And the talk of the league was all about Hank Aaron. The way it tore up the league, the way he did this, the way he did that. 2 years later, I was fortunate enough to make it to major leagues, and Hank was an established major leaguer at that time. And the talk was about Hank Aaron, and the comparison continued. And I must say that we had a long and a friendly rivalry on the field. And I said this to Hank in New York when he was induced as being elected to the Hall of Fame, that I think he made me a better baseball player because of that. Because when Hank would get up with the Milwaukee Braves, hit a home run, I'd be standing in the outfield watching it go over. I said, well, it's up to you. When you get up there, you got to try to do something as well, if not as good, because your teammate's going to be expecting the same. And my neck got sore watching Hank Aaron's fly balls go over the fence. But he was a tremendous athlete, a tremendous ball player. And it's been said that he didn't get his just dues as a player, and I agree, because Hank Aaron was not a flashy individual. He just went about his job and did it very well. But what I also admired about Hank Aaron, not only his athletic abilities, I admired him as a human being and an outstanding person. But I must say that I thought I had drawn even with Hank when we were elected to the Hall of Fame, but I read where he was 12th and I was 13th. One step behind. But I got him today. In the lineup we had today, the home run king of all time is hitting fourth. That's very appropriate, and it's a well-deserved honor. But he's on the on-deck circle. I'm hitting third. I'm going into the Hall of Fame before he does. So I finally got you, buddy. A lot of people have said to me, what makes you go, what makes you tick, what makes you so determined? And I have a lot of thoughts on it. I've expressed them. But maybe as I stand here today and reflect back to Oakland, California when I was a youngster, and all I can remember is a young man standing on first base. It's a ground ball hit the shortstop, and I went into second base with a nice slide, and I got up and my pants were torn, and I looked down and had a raspberries bleeding a little bit. I didn't think too much about it till I got home, and my mother scolded me about that, about tearing the pants, and I just said, "There's nothing to it, Mom." But I think that was the stage that set the determination and everything, the way I played the game. And a lot of people say, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's the way baseball is supposed to be played. You're supposed to slide in if there's a force out at second base. But what you don't realize is that field was covered by asphalt. I had never claimed to be smart. So my career took off from there, and I was blessed, I think, to come across a man that set the foundation for my baseball career and maybe my life in general. And that man, a lot of you will not recognize the name, is George Pose. He was my sandlot coach and high school coach, American Legion coach in Oakland, California. And he was a dedicated man. He gave to the youth of Oakland his time, his knowledge, and his ability that he knew what it would take to play baseball. And what he taught me was how to play the game of baseball the way it should be played, and that is to give 100% at all times, do whatever you can do to win a ball game, short of hurting anyone intentionally. But also, I think the biggest thing that he gave to me and the youth of Oakland was he also taught us how to lose and accept it. Not be glad or happy about it, but how to accept it graciously. Because we all can't win all the time, but you have to be able to accept defeat and build from that. George Pose gave me the foundation I'm still building on. And I just want to give him his just dues. And I want to say to George Pose, thank you for all the youth of Oakland, because I know they appreciate it like I did and still do. He's still a good friend of mine, and he still comes out to the ballpark and builds up my confidence when we've had a tough loss, and I appreciate it. I know I'd like to take just this moment right now before I forget it, and I hope he's here because he'll know what I'm talking about, but because this man touched his life too. If Kurt Flood is in the audience, please stand up. Kurt? He wasn't a bad baseball player either. But I'll tell you one thing, he touched his life, and we played a little bit together in Oakland. And I think Kurt was the first ball player to really make a sacrifice towards free agency. And I don't ever think he's gotten the thanks that he was so richly deserved for doing that from the day's players. I can't say that, Kurt, because they don't have free agents for managers. I am not going to stand here and go over my career, because I think it's well documented. And I'd have to hit on some tough times too. But a lot of people ask me, aren't you upset about not getting 3,000 hits, not getting 600 home runs? And I said, no, I'm not. And I don't think I have to apologize for getting 2,943 hits and 586 home runs. I've also been told if I'd have gotten only 3 more hits a year, I'd have gotten 3,000 hits anyway. But if I don't want to go after personal goals, I could have inserted myself into the lineup much more often in Cleveland when I was a player manager. But as a manager, I had better sense than that. I knew that I had better ball players than Frank Robinson at that time. So I played the best that I had. But the thing about it is, when I came into baseball, and I had 10 wonderful years at Cincinnati, and a lot of people associate me only with Baltimore, but I had 10 wonderful years at Cincinnati until the owner of the ball club saw fit to trade me. And that was all right too, because that was part of the game. But after the deal was made, the media asked him for an explanation of why. And he said, because Frank Robinson is an old 30. He's over the hill. And I said, he's got a little truth to that. I did turn 30 a few months ago, and I'm closer to 31 than I am 30. But I knew I wasn't over the hill. And I think that's what really turned me around as a player and as a person. Because I felt like, really, I had something to prove. Not on the baseball field, and not as a person, and not to myself, and not to the fans of Cincinnati, and not to the fans of baseball, but to build a wit that I was not over the hill. And I think going to Baltimore was a turning point in my life. When the trade was made, I was eating dinner, and the phone rang, and Phil Sager was on the other end of the phone. He says, "You've been traded to Baltimore." I said, "To who?" He said, "To Baltimore." And I asked him who for, and he mumbled 3 names, and I hung up the phone. And my wife asked me, she says, "Who was that?" I said, "It was Phil Sager." She said, "What do you want?" He said, "I've been traded to Baltimore." She said, "Where?" I said, "We've been traded to Baltimore." I didn't mind the trade. I honestly didn't, but I was shocked and I was hurt at first because that was the first time I felt like I had failed. And I really took a while to recover from that, but after I thought about it for a while, I said, "Hey, look, you're going to a good ball club. They've been close twice. If you go over there and just do what you're capable of doing, maybe you can help them win." And I really didn't realize at the time, until I got there, what a great situation I was walking into. Not only was I walking into a good ball club and being associated with some outstanding individuals, such as Brooks Robinson, Boog Powell, Jim Palmer, people like that, I was walking into a great situation as far as the organization is concerned. It's the greatest organization that I feel like in baseball, and I know they're better. I know there are other good organizations in baseball, and I've been associated with quite a few of them, but as a player, I must say those are the happiest years of my playing career. Not only was I a more relaxed type player, and I guess realized my ambitions to be in another World Series. I was in one at Cincinnati, but on the losing end. And everything fell into place in 1966 for a good reason, because we did it on the field. But I think one of the main reasons was the organization itself and the people behind it. You know, they say behind every good man is a good woman, and that's true. But behind every good ball club, there's a good organization. That's true. And Baltimore has an outstanding one. I'll get a little deeper into that as I go on. And I'm not going to be up here as long as the commissioner, I promise you. But the only regret I have about my relationships with Baltimore was that my playing career was too short there. It only lasted 6 years. But the love affair that I have with Baltimore, the organization, the city, and the people that run that ball club, and those people that was associated when I was there, the love affair we have still goes on. And in 1972, I had to leave. I had a brief stop with the Dodgers, had a short stop with the California Angels, and I went over to the Cleveland Indians, and almost completely through the 1974 season, they asked me to become the manager of the ball club in 1975. I became the manager of the Cleveland Indians, player manager, and that was another stage of my career that I'm very grateful for. But to wrap up my playing career, I must say that a lot of people touched my life. A lot of people had to do with my playing career. A lot of people had to do with me maturing and growing up as an individual. And a lot of people helped me over some tough, tough hurdles. But I think one of the men that helped me the most was the one that gave me my first managing job down in the Caribbean islands, and his name is Hiram Cuevas. He was the owner of the Santurce Ball Club down there. He put up with me for 8 years down there. And what he did for me when I became a manager in the big leagues, I cannot explain. But we used to sit for hours and talk about strategies, what I could do, what I could become a manager if I ever did in the major leagues. But also what Hiram Cuevas did for me is he was open and honest with me as a person. And he was able to show me and tell me how other people saw me. And I was able to sit and listen and understand and stand back and say, hey, maybe I am not as nice, and maybe I am a little tough on people. Maybe I am a little standoffish. And I said, I'm going to try my best to correct that. And I have. I have tried to change for the better. And to this day, some people say that's not too much. But I assure you, it's much better than I used to be. And I am just happy and pleased, and I know when I introduce friends and people that I feel like is important to me, I'm going to leave somebody out, and that's always what happens. But I just want everyone to know that they're in my thoughts today. I appreciate everything that they did for me, have done for me, and still are doing for me. And I just want them to know that they're in my thoughts today, and without their help, without their prayers, I wouldn't be standing here today. Because for a young boy in Oakland, California, playing on an asphalt baseball field, he didn't dare dream, not even dare think, wouldn't even dare let the thought enter his mind that he would one day be standing up here, being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But it has happened. And I thank the Lord for giving me the God-given talent to play the greatest game in this country. I'd just like to really introduce some of my friends that are here. And as I said, don't feel slighted if I miss somebody. I'd just like to start off by introducing a young lady, and I must admit to Peter O'Malley, she's a true Dodger fan. She's from Los Angeles, California, Rita Atkinson, and her daughter Patty and Jenny. A young man that I have been associated with for a very short period of time, but has become a real good friend of mine, Bill Speckin. Also, some very good friends of mine from Los Angeles, California, Freddie Glantz, his wife Bonnie, and their son Johnny. And someone says, you know, a bad penny always shows up. And sure enough, and she dubbed herself this, I didn't. But when I came to Baltimore, it was very difficult for me going to a new city, a new league, to concentrate on baseball and also worry about my family off the field. But I was accepted, and my family was accepted in Baltimore off the field, and that made it much easier for me to concentrate on baseball on the field. And just a couple of people that had something to do that was Stephen and Kolotny and Marcy Kolotny. Marcy is the bad penny. I also would like, I know he was introduced earlier, but I just want to let him know that I appreciate everything that he did for me when he was at Baltimore. And he did become the general manager. And we had no contracts hassles. I would go in and ask for what I wanted. He would say, no, you can't have it. So I said, what are you offering? He said, that's it, take it or leave it, and I signed. No hassles. Frank Cashin. I alluded to earlier about the Baltimore organization, but I'd like to just go a little deeper and tell you about a man that I was associated with there and became the owner of the ball club the same year that I was traded in 1966. And what stands out in my mind about this man, that he cared about his ball players' personal life. And just an example, after a ball game, he'd come in the clubhouse every night he was in the city, and he wouldn't come over and slap you on the back and said, a nice game-winning home run, a nice double, a nice play, a nice catch, a nice pitch, or whatever. He wouldn't do that. The first words out of his mouth was, how are you? How's the family? Is there anything that I can do for you? And that, to me, was the greatest and significant thing that an owner of a ball club could do for me. Because, you know, that glad backslapping, you can get that anywhere. But this man was very sincere. And I looked up on him and come to know him not only as the owner of the ball club, but as a friend. And he's still a friend today and I feel like he will always be a friend of mine, and that man is Jerry Harperger and his wife, Alice. And I know I touched briefly on my career right now and what I'm doing and where I'm drawing a check. And believe me, those are coming very handy. And the man that's signing my checks today is another individual, and I think is a very unique individual. And the one regret that I have, and I mean this sincerely, because he is an outstanding person, one of the nicest people that I have ever been in contact or come in contact with in baseball, that I'm only the manager of his ball club and I'm not able to play for him, because I would have liked to have played for this man when I was at the top or the peak of my career, because as a manager right now, I would like nothing better to do than bring him a winner, and there's not much I can do about it if the players don't do it. But if I was a player at the peak of my career, maybe I could hit a home run and win a few more ball games for you. But right now, Bob, all I can do is stand in the dugout, give the signs, and hope they'll come through. But this man is doing everything he can do to turn around the San Francisco organization. And again, like Jerry, he's a friend. He's just not my boss, he's a friend. And any problems that I have or my family have, I can go to him with them. And if they can be corrected, he will. Bob Lurie and his wife, Connie. And you know, the old saying is you save the best for last. And I'm very fortunate. I came from a family of 10. And they said, how did you get such quick hands? You know, when you sit down at the table to eat with 10 kids, you better be quick, unless you don't get anything to eat. And I was a thin kid when I was coming up, because one of my brothers not only was fast with his hands, but he would stack his plate so high that it was nothing left when I got around to reaching for whatever else was on the table. But I feel very proud because today, they haven't been able to do what they can do today, and that is stand up and take a bow. They've always been in the background. They've always been in the shadow. They've always been standing back, not getting any credit. But I know that they know, and I hope they do. If they don't, they know today, and two of them are here today, that I appreciate everything that they did and all the sacrifices that they made when I was coming along as a kid, because I didn't have to work summer jobs. I didn't have to cut the lawn. I didn't have to do any of the chores around the house, only because they made the sacrifices for me. I would say, hey, Johnny and Sylvester, Mom wants me to cut the lawn, but I got a game to play. They would say, go ahead. And off I would go. And I got to say, well, this is easy. You know, even if I don't have any baseball games to play, if I want to get out of chores, I can just say, I do. So a few times I did say that, and I didn't have any games to play. So I'm confessing today. But I just want them to know that they were always with me. They were always standing up front, never in the shadow, never in the background as far as I was concerned. Every time I took a bow on accepting the award or whatever, I was accepting it for them and all the other brothers and sisters in my family and my whole family. But I'd just like to introduce him now, my brother Johnny. My brother Sylvester and his wife Vertus. I just haven't forgotten, and I'd like to say to all my friends from Baltimore and wherever in baseball, especially Section 34, thank you, appreciate you for coming, I love you. You're talking about somebody being proud. No one is as proud of the two young people in my household than I am. They've had to put up with an awful lot. They've had to make an awful lot of sacrifices because I've been jumping and running all around the country. And I don't think they really knew what was going on because it was like a carnival to them, and they enjoyed it when they were young. A new place here during the winter, a new place here during the summer, and they enjoyed it. But I think as they've gotten older, they've come to appreciate, and I want them to know that I appreciate the sacrifices that they have made so I could pursue my career, because I know I wasn't always at home when I should have been when they were growing up. Said I wasn't going to do it. I just want them to know they were always in my thoughts, and what I was doing was try to make really a better life for them and a good life for them. But all I want them to know is they're the jewel in my triple crown. And that's my daughter, Nichelle, and my son, Frank Kevin. And I know Miss Commissioner Karen, Mr. McPhail, Mr. Feeney, I know that it's well documented how tough I am on umpires, and you have to put up with me. And I've been awful tough on some of them. But I'll tell you one thing, the person I'm going to introduce next will tell you that's just a piece of cake for what she's had to put up with. I've been married to my wife for 20 years. That's a little bit behind you, Happy. But I tell you, she has really been the driving force behind me, my life as a baseball player, as a person. I think she's brought out the quietness, the shy type of individual that I used to be, and made me more of a talker away from home. Around the house, I'm not able to get any words in because her mouth is going like this 24 hours a day, and even when she sleeps, she talks. Because that other house is a two-story house, and I watch television very late, and we have the remote control, and you know, click, 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 and I'll change the stations often. And I'll come upstairs after I've turned the TV off to go to bed, and she's asleep. And I'm not kidding. She says, "Frank, you're always on a click, click, click in that television." I said, "What did you say?" And she's dead asleep. So she's even talking in her sleep. But I just want her to know that she's done an awful lot for me, and I'm very proud of what she's done for me, because when I was still trying to get my career together and further my career and even think about things I wanted to do when I was through playing as an active player, I would go to Barbara and I'd say, "Barbara, what do you think I should do? I got the opportunity to manage in Puerto Rico this winter. What do you think I should do?" She said, "Frank, whatever you want to do, do it. The kids and I will adjust to your life. Don't worry about us." And I'll tell you one thing, again, playing this game of baseball, trying to stay on top is tough enough. But when your family is behind you 100%, you don't have to really worry about them. And they are pulling for you all the time, and whatever you do, you know they're behind you, fail, succeed, or whatever. It makes you feel awful good. And I cannot say enough about her, and all I can say is, Barbara, stand up and take a bow. That's one person that I wish was here today, that's not, and that's my mom. She passed away in 1980, But fortunately, she was able to see me achieve most of the things that I achieved in baseball. She saw me become the first manager in the major leagues, and she almost held on and watched me become the second black manager. Oh, no, I won't say it. I take that back. That is not true. She almost watched me become the fourth black manager in the major leagues, and the first one in the National League. But what she did for me, I cannot say enough about, and I won't try to go into it. But all I want her to know today, that I appreciate and thank her for everything that she did, the encouragements that she gave me, the guidelines that she laid down for me to live my life by. I didn't always go by those guidelines, but I tried to. And I just want to let her know that she's here with me today, and I know she is. And thanks, Mom, for everything you did for me. And in closing, I'd just like to say a special thanks to Roy Campanella and Jackie Robinson, to all the black baseball players in professional baseball, Negro League too, for the sacrifices that they made and the things that they had to put up with to make the road easier for the players, the black players that are coming along today. They opened the doors. And without Jackie, Rachel, I don't know if that door would have been open again for a long, long time. That man, I know I couldn't have put up with what he put up with. And if that door hadn't have stayed open and it was closed, I know for many, many years it would have been closed to us. And I just want all the black players, wherever they are, to know that I appreciate what they did for me to make it possible for me to play in the major leagues. Thank you all for coming today.